Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and today we're going to talk about the iPad Air. This is the latest version of Apple's tablet, and this isn't an actual review of the iPad Air, but it looks at all of the crazy things you can actually do with this tablet because, well, this is a tablet that sort of breaks the trend of, tablets are no good, tablets are only for watching TV, that sort of stuff. So let's begin. But before we get into all of the details, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button on our channel and also hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any future updates from us. All right, so before we get into the actual performance side of the iPad Air, let's first go over the specs of this tablet. The iPad Air comes with the A14 Bionic chip, which is a 5nm based processor from Apple. The unit that we have has 256 gigs of memory. It's a 10.9-inch display area, but the physical form factor matches that exactly of the 11-inch iPad Pro. Other than that, the tablet is also compatible with the second generation Apple Pencil 2, which attaches to the iPad Air through that magnetic dock on the side. You get a 12 megapixel camera on the back and a 7 megapixel FaceTime camera on the front. Interestingly, there is no Face ID on this tablet, but instead what you get is Touch ID embedded into the power button. Now this is something that a lot of people have really liked. In our use, it's actually been quite fast, very good, easy to use, and by eliminating Face ID, people have been wondering why Apple did not do this with the iPhone. Maybe they'll do it next year. So that's overall the basic specs of the iPad Air. Now let's take a look at how it differs in comparison to the iPad Pro, irrespective of whether it's a 2018 or the 2020 iPad Pro. Firstly, the Pro iPad is powered by the A12X or the A12Z Bionic processor. That's based on the 7nm processor, yes, but it has more GPU cores than the A14 on here. In addition to that, the iPad Pro also has a ProMotion display, which is a 120Hz refresh rate display and has better latency when it comes to the Apple Pencil. Other than that, the iPad Pro 2020 also features a LiDAR sensor, whereas this one doesn't. The iPad Pro 2018, which I have right here, has also a single camera. In fact, it's so interesting. The iPad Pro 2018 11-inch and the iPad Air look identical. They're very difficult to tell apart, except for, of course, not just the power button, but also the really interesting color finishes that you have on this year's Air. If you closely look at what the iPad Air packs, it almost feels like very close second to the iPad Pro. And given that, my first thing to do on this was, of course, benchmarking. So you will see all of the benchmark numbers, but more importantly, let's go over real life use cases. I'm going to cover in this one 3 specific things: video editing, photo editing, and productivity. Let's start with video editing. Now, there are a host of editing apps that are available for iOS, in this case iPadOS, and we've got 3 on board here. We've got iMovie, which is Apple's own solution and is a fairly simple, everybody friendly application where you put in your clips and it generates a film for you. Next, we have Adobe's Premiere Rush, and given Adobe's lineage with Premiere Pro, the Premiere Rush experience feels a little lackluster, but it is there for people who are already subscribers of the Adobe Cloud subscription suite. Lastly, we have Lumafusion, and now Lumafusion has been a staple favorite amongst pros who use the iPad Pro for video editing. Lumafusion offers you multi-track video editing, multi-track audio editing. You can do a whole bunch of transitions, video clip edits, and also color grade within the app. It's actually a it's a full-fledged editing suite. So what we did is we used all of these 3 applications, and the footage was provided courtesy the Canon EOS R5. So that's 8K footage. That's right. We're editing 8K on the iPad Air. So iMovie and Premiere Rush unfortunately don't support the resolution. They're both capped at 4K and kept crashing during the import process. However, Lumafusion, like a champ, accepted the 8K footage and, well, we were on our way, creating a timeline, editing a short clip of my dog thinking about various types of food, which is pretty much all he does all day long. And while the clips themselves were flat, shot of course in 10-bit color with a flat color profile, I was also able to color grade them within Lumafusion itself and then export it as a 4K video file. Now Lumafusion does not support 8K renders so far, so our output was limited to 4K, but that's still quite impressive, guys. Imagine a tablet is able to do 8K video editing on the fly. So, and the best part is there are no stutters. There are no significant stutters during scrubbing during the timeline. If you're making finesse or rather fine adjustments, fine tuning your transitions, or if you're fine tuning the scale of your video file, there aren't stutters that will make the preview unusable. In contrast, in fact, while I was actually trying to edit the same footage on my desktop at home, which is powered by an Intel Core i9, it's got an NVIDIA 2070 Super, it's got 32 gigs of RAM, it's basically decked out. That machine on Premiere Pro was not able to play back 8K footage as a preview. I had to drop it down in resolution and quality before I was able to see anything. You can edit 8K on a desktop, you just have to use proxies, or you have to get a crazy expensive system. Or you could get an iPad Air, because this is able to do that. So you can see the entire edit process. It's a small clip that I did for the sake of this video. And honestly, it was a very, very smooth process, which leads me to believe that if you're a content creator who's shooting 1080p or even 4K for that matter, whether it's 8-bit or 10-bit color, you can use the iPad Air to edit that footage and create your videos without a problem. Adding to that is also the fact that this display is DCI-P3. It's a wide gamut display. So if it's 10-bit color you're looking for and 10-bit color grading, you're getting the correct color output as well. So it's a win-win for video guys. Moving past that is photography. Now, I'm not talking about photos you're taking from this 12 megapixel camera. I'm talking about photos that you as a professional might shoot using a professional DSLR or a professional mirrorless camera. The EOS R5 has a 45 megapixel sensor. So what we obviously therefore have are 45 megapixel RAW files transferred directly from the EOS R5 into the iPad Air. Thanks for that, iOS, or rather iPad OS 14. And again, editing these photos in Lightroom is a complete breeze. You can go through all of the photos one by one. You have to follow the one by one step in here and edit them. And then at the end of it all, you can select all of those that you've edited and export a JPEG out of them as a batch. And everything happens again very smoothly. It's kind of crazy that you're getting this level of smoothness out of something that most people don't even consider an actual computer. Contrary, yeah, I know, but that is how it is. So if you're editing photos, raw files, while Lightroom gives you a great experience, there are some drawbacks. Now, for fashion photographers especially, if you do a lot of retouching, you'll have to port the Lightroom edit into Photoshop, and in Photoshop you may not have all the right tools available. With the lack of filters, with the lack of plugins, it may limit your workflow. But if you're a casual photographer, if you shoot a lot of landscape, if you travel a lot, this combination is a killer combination. So you've got to keep that in mind. Last but not the least, I'm going to tackle the problem of the iPad Air being a replacement for your laptop. Now, a lot of people, when I did the comparison between the Surface Pro 7 and the iPad Pro 2018, said, well, the iPad is not a computer, it can't do this, it can't do that. But well, fact of the matter is, I've been using an iPad Pro as a work machine for a long time. Well, not as a staple daily driver, but as I move around, it's generally the machine that I'm working on, whether it's typing up reviews, researching for stuff, and even editing all the product shots that you would see on our website, on our Instagram. Make sure to follow our Instagram, by the way. So with that in mind, the iPad Air gives you a seamless experience in comparison to the iPad Pro. The other thing that helps the iPad's case is the fact that Microsoft recently released an update to the Microsoft Office suite, which brings trackpad support and multi-file support to Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Excel is going to get multi-file support in the next update whenever that comes out. But right now you can open two Word files side by side or two PowerPoint files side by side, something that you were not able to do earlier. This makes things a lot easier, especially if you've got to copy paste parts from one document into another, or if you're referring to one deck while you make another one. So with that in mind, it's actually quite amazing how close the iPad Air feels in not just in terms of performance, but also looks to the 2018 iPad Pro, or rather even the 2020 iPad Air for that matter. Like I have both of these right here, and that's the Pro and that's the Air. They're literally the same size, physically same dimensions, identical chassis, but performance wise very close, very reliable, with just a few differences. The lack of Pro Motion, to be very honest, will hit you only if you do a lot of gaming. But in terms of as a photo video editor, it's not going to make much of a difference. As an illustrator, that's the important part. If you're going to be using Adobe Illustrator, which recently just came out, you will notice that the Apple Pencil does have a slightly longer latency in comparison to the iPad Pro. Now, the only other notable difference between the iPad Air and the iPad Pro is the speaker arrangement. Now, at first glance, you may look at the iPad Air, see the grills on the side and say, well, it has dual speakers on the left and dual speakers on the right. Turns out that's not the case. There's only a pair of stereo speakers, and one set of these grills are hollow. So you get sound coming only from one set and not the other. And while that really does not make much of a difference, because the iPad Air still sounds absolutely amazing. You can watch movies on it, you can listen to music on it, you can do all of that. The iPad Pro just does sound a little bit better. So yeah, that's a quick overview of the iPad Air's performance as a machine that is perfect for content creators. Now, here's the thing. The iPad Air starts at 54,900, and that's for the 64 GB Wi-Fi variant, and goes up to 68,900 for 256 GB Wi-Fi variant. If you're doing photo or video editing, or rather shooting as a professional, 256 gigs is a no-brainer. Settling with 64 gigs, you're going to be running out of space very, very quickly. So I do recommend the larger storage capacity variant. Yes, you can plug external drives into the iPad, if you want to move files around and stuff, but that is not actually the same as expanding storage. Do not fall for that. It's not as easy as you may think. Just get the higher storage variant. It'll make your life easier. Now, that's one. Second thing is, well, you don't really need the LTE edition if you're going to be hotspotting all the time. It's easy to do, so you can save the money and go with the Wi-Fi only variant. Third thing, for 68,900, let's look at what you can get in the market. You have a bunch of gaming laptops, but they're big, they're not very good with battery life, and they all have questionable color accuracy when it comes to the display. With the iPad Air, you get a pristine color accurate display, you get excellent battery life of 8 to 10 hours of use, easy, and you also get something that can actually kick out edits very quickly and in a very stable fashion. So powerful editing machine right here. The only downside is, and this is coming from a traditionally being a PC user and a Mac user, is the multitasking capabilities. Yes, the iPad Air is, or rather iPad OS itself is a little limited in that factor, but when you consider how much performance you're getting out of this thing, it's something very easy to look over. So that's one. Second thing, if you're going to be using this as a professional editing station for yourself or a portable editing station for yourself, you will need the Apple Pencil. So that does add another 10 grand to your bill. If you're going to be using this as a portable editing station and a work machine like I do, then the Magic Keyboard is definitely recommended. It makes the typing experience actually very, very good, even in comparison to the Folio, which I have here. So, because it does two things. One, it offers you a very stable base and a keys that follow the same scissor mechanism that's on the MacBook Pros. That's one. Second thing is it frees up the Type-C connector for you on the iPad, because you can plug the keyboard in to charge, and then using the connectors at the back, it'll charge it for you. So that sort of frees up this connector, and you can attach whatever peripheral device you may want, and you don't have to keep unplugging and plugging all the time. So there's that. The Magic Keyboard does cost quite a bit. It's roughly about 27,000 bucks online. So if you do consider all of this, you do hit about a lakh in expense. But you don't have to do it all in one go. Two, you don't have to do it all at all. You don't have to get the Magic Keyboard. You can just get a third-party Bluetooth keyboard for cheap and still be able to type and get the great performance experience that the iPad Air has to offer. Frankly, seeing what the iPad Air is capable of doing makes me really excited about what Apple is going to push out with its Apple Silicon based Macs. If a tablet is capable of editing 8K files straight out of a Canon EOS R5, I mean, it just blows the door wide open for the possibilities. Apple's set to announce the Silicon based Macs in a few days. Very excited for it. But for now, if you guys were wondering if the iPad Air can meet your edit requirements, hopefully I've answered your questions. If I haven't, you can leave your questions in the comment section below and I will get back to them personally as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching this video, and before you leave, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and of course also hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any future updates from us. As for me, I'm gonna see you in the next one.